In the 90s, Australia had a puppet for just about everything. We had a moon-dwelling puppet who fancied himself a bit of an artist, a smart mouth puppet who hosted our morning cartoons, and a dating show later on, for some reason, and this flesh-coloured worm with his soulless, Funko Pop-looking eyes that just wanted Aussie kids to read. Do you think if I read a book, it'll stop staring at me? Aussie kids may have loved these little goobers, but mate, looking back, some of them are a little bit weird. Welcome to Mouldy Media. I'm Nikki and I like talking about the stuff that Aussies grew up watching as kids. Today, I invite you to join me on a journey back to the 90s in search of the weirdest puppets to grace Aussie TV screens. Our first contender is Bookworm. Now, I loved reading as a kid, but probably not as much as this guy. Also, I know that that's just the colour that worms kind of are, I guess. But whose choice was it to make him, you know, flesh-coloured? The Book Place was an educational show where adult human beings read books to kids, with the help, of course, of Bookworm. The show had a pretty solid run from 1991 to 2003 and was a staple for little kids. Okay, so I don't mean any offence by this, I promise. But am I the only one who thought that Bookworm was a worm version of prolific television personality Bert Newton? No? Just me? Seriously though, I just accepted that everyone's favourite bookworm was, you know, Wormbert. And he was just living his best worm life. 'Cause why not? Maybe that's just what happens when you got super famous on Australian TV. I didn't know. I was 7. Again, no offence to the late great Bert Newton. He was like the glue of Australian TV. He did deserve his own puppet. We should have made him one. I think it's because Bookworm has a really big smile like Bert Newton. So I thought, yeah, Wormbert. Makes total sense. I don't even know how old I was when I realised that that probably wasn't Wormbert's deal, you know? Look, I wasn't exactly a Mensa candidate at age 7. Overall, I do question the colour choice and the soulless looking eyes. So he's like a 7 out of 10 on the weirdness scale, yeah? It would be less weird if he was supposed to be Bert Newton. That's all I'm saying. Why didn't we get a puppet version of Bert Newton? I can't believe I thought that for so long. Like, properly thought that. As a kid though, I was, of course, a massive Wormbert fan. Moving on from my childhood delusions, next we have Agro. Now in the 90s, one furry little dude ruled kids' morning telly, and it was this guy. Until Cheez TV came along, but we're not going to talk about it. From 1990 to 1997, Agro's Cartoon Connection is where you could find banger cartoons like Samurai Pizza Cats, Mega Man, and of course, Sailor Moon. And yes, I am aware that Agro originated on a show called Wombat in the 80s, but I did not originate in the 80s, so I'm going to talk about Cartoon Connection. I wasn't actually able to find a whole lot about Wombat, so feel free to educate me in the comments. Agro was a pretty feral little guy, and he'd give his fellow hosts tons of grief.
Why am I doing this?
Why?
It's less painful than talking to you.
In fact, the show was known for having jokes that the cast referred to as F-111s because they flew straight over the kids' heads.
What happens when you misbehave?
The ratings go through the roof. I don't know why I'm all wet.
Oh,
I don't know. Tommy Turner was there though.
Agro?
I'm not taking me top off on national television.
Why not? You're only
I'll
little.
take it off for the Melbourne Truth, page 3.
Oh, Agro?
The word aggro, which is Aussie slang for aggressive, is a pretty fitting name. And he kind of looks like his previous gig was as a dog's chew toy. You might think, hey, steady on. Agro was on TV decades ago. He's not going to look too crash hot these days. But mate, these pictures are from the 90s. This is Agro in his prime. I'm pretty sure you can see the glue connecting his hands to his body.
How about we get you some new hands?
Yeah, could I have some new hands for Christmas?
My point is, this guy looks mouldier than the Vegemite sandwich that my mum would inevitably have to extract from my school bag at the end of each term. They had this running joke that he was made from a bath mat, and I pretty much believe it. Australia loved this little bath mat though. He would make appearances on other shows all the time, and after Cartoon Connection was cancelled, thanks to Jade and Ryan, but we're not going to talk about it, Agro hosted the matchmaking show Perfect Match, which I'm pretty sure only lasted for a single season. I think he replaced like the robot in the old one that was like, here's the statistics of how in love you should be, which makes sense. You know, I always consult my bath mat before I agree to date anyone. Agro's iconic voice is provided by his puppeteer, comedian and radio personality Jamie Dunn. These days, Jamie Dunn actually has the puppet, and it looks like he's doing live adult-only shows with some of his co-hosts like Ranger Stacey. The one question that I've always had though is, what is Agro? I'm not trying to get existential. Like, what does he represent? Like, what is he? Is he supposed to be a wombat? Is he just a furry little man? Some other animal? A muppet gone wrong? Okay. Well, sort of. Yeah, last Christmas I bought this shirt from an op shop and I had a total glitch in the Matrix moment because this is Agro, but it's not. It's Animal, the Muppet, but it can't be because it's Agro. So it turns out they released functional toy puppets of a bunch of Jim Henson characters in the late 70s. Someone clearly gave them a shave and a dye job, but that's Agro. So this is why I'm not allowed on eBay after midnight. They're not that hard to find and they all do look like they're in this condition. He is disintegrating. Okay, I'm breathing in. I'm breathing in Agro. I don't know if you can see. There's orange in the box where he's disintegrating. If anyone has any idea of where I might start in transforming him into Agro, hit me up in the comments. They must have rebuilt this entire body. I tell ya, when I buy stupid things, I buy very stupid things. Agro is a born entertainer, but it is weird that Australia just straight up appropriated a Muppet, made him a bit rude, and then he became a childhood icon. Right? He gets away with it because he's a bit of a larrikin, but still, it's weird. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 on the weirdness scale for the whole situation. In the Box was a show for preschoolers, and I definitely wasn't a preschooler while it was airing, but it was slim pickings when you were homesick from school. So I've seen a little In the Box in my time. I remember that banger song that they would have at the end of every episode.
Put a smile on your dog, we'll see you in a little while.
Alongside the human hosts, we had Bop, the puppet. Bop's design is very orange, and if I'm honest, a bit generic. No hate. Just saying. And as for the voice acting, it's like they took the concept of acting is reacting and then just reacted to everything with odd sounds and moans.
Well done. Oh, boy. Oh, heart. Yes, sirree. And with all his heart, he loved Denver Dog.
That said, the show was very successful and it went for 8 years. Viva la Bop, I suppose. Anyway, as an 11-year-old, Bop used to just annoy me more than anything, but now there is just something about Bop that kind of creeps me out. Unsettlingly orange. Look, he'd be a 4, but we're going to bump it up to a 6 because of all the weird moaning. One of the most iconic puppets to ever grace Aussie screens is none other than Mr. Squiggle. Oh, here's one I prepared earlier. He's not disintegrating, so that's good news. Just going to settle him back up there, okay? He's a bit camera shy right now. The show Mr. Squiggle and Friends was only supposed to fill a 6-week gap in 1959 on the ABC. But there must have been a squiggly-shaped hole in all of our hearts because Mr. Squiggle and Friends ran until 1999. The way it worked was this. Kids would send in random squiggles to the show, and Mr. Squiggle would turn them into a cool picture. We wouldn't know what it was going to be until the very end because the picture always turned out to be upside down. What a twist! But this wasn't a gimmick. The puppeteer, Norman Hetherington, was actually drawing with the real puppet's nose. So for the image to be the right way up for him, it had to be upside down for us. The puppet design for this one is pretty unreal, particularly when you consider that Norman Hetherington actually drew with the real nose of the puppet. He's pretty iconic and weird in the best way. I personally loved it when he would go on his little spacewalks because he was, he was too excited. He had to go calm down. So I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10 for weirdness. But like, good weird, you know? Oh, no. Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall and now he's going through an emo phase. In 2001, Channel 10 aired a season of a show called Horace and Tina, which I don't remember seeing at the time, but the puppets are weird. Meet Horace. He's 243 years old, grumpy and pretty selfish. His favourite thing to eat is dog food. What a charmer. His sister Tina is 271 and she likes to meddle in other people's lives. Naturally, the two are always arguing over something. Horace and Tina are Nelfs, these gnome, elf-looking things that basically act as Santa's little helpers. But one Christmas, they jump off old mate's sleigh while it's parked on the roof. I say good on them for escaping Santa's brutal working conditions. They end up in the home of Lauren, this Canadian girl who just moved to Australia. She's the only one that can see them for some reason, and then they proceed to just continuously mess up her life. Side note, Lauren looked super familiar. At first I thought it was just because she looks a little bit like that YouTuber, Lil Simsy, but it turns out the actress was actually the face model for the character of Angela Anaconda. You know, from that show? My name is Angela, hey, hello. Small world, right? It looks like they kind of have gone for a realistic look in terms of the skin tones and textures and stuff, and they kind of do look a bit realistic, but the problem is when they open their mouths, it's a one-way ticket to Uncanny Valley. I haven't figured out where these guys came from because there's not a whole lot of information kicking around about the show, but they are controlled electronically, which I think makes them animatronics. But still, they're puppets, okay? They're both. They're animatronics and puppets. The best of both worlds. Overall, I'm equal parts impressed by the attempt at a realistic design and completely wigged out by the uncanniness. Oh, did I mention that Horace and Tina was made by Jonathan M. Schiff, who also made H2O Just Add Water? So before we go, oh no, Cleo, we got uncanny elves eating dog food. Nice. So it's the next day. I had to stop filming because there was too much of that like Agro animal Cheeto dust in the air. And I just kept sneezing. But anyway, moving on. Now, I can't make a video about Australia's weirdest puppets without talking about the TV show Lift Off. This educational show for little kids aired from 1992 to 1995, and it featured a bunch of different puppets interacting with real kids. It's kind of Australia's answer to Sesame Street, but where Sesame Street features cute, cuddly monsters, Lift Off opts for more abstract ideas. I was super little when Lift Off aired, and I honestly don't remember a whole lot from the show, but there is one type of puppet I do remember in particular, and that was the backsacks. I actually thought there were only 2 of them, but I think there's a whole bunch, and they all have like different backstories and lives and stuff. They also function as backpacks for the kids on the show, and this is where I remember being a little bit concerned. Like, why does your mouth have to be that big, mate? You're gonna eat my stuff? You're gonna eat me? These are like an 8 to 8.5 on the scale. Okay, things that get anthropomorphized and then they end up with a mouth that is just disproportionately huge particularly freaks me out. I know that that's very specific, but like Diesel from Johnson and Friends, he was going to be on this list because he's got a big truck mouth. But then I found out that he's not a puppet. They don't even use puppets on that show. That is filmed in a completely bonkers way that I did not realise, but that is another video for another time. You know what else freaks me out though? When something very much should have a face, and it doesn't. Now, if there is one star of Lift Off, it's this guy. What's its name? EC. Where's its face? Great question. In the first episode of the show, a couple of kids discover EC in the garbage and then they just decide to cart little mate around on their adventures and stuff. According to the creators, conceptually, EC stands for every child, as in any child could imagine themselves as this little faceless weird doll that was found in the garbage. In the universe of the show, it stands for Emily and Charlie because the kids can't decide which one of those names to give the doll. I'm going to be completely honest, when I came up with this video, I was originally going to have categories like tears, and there was going to be one called like Nightmare Fuel or Kill It with Fire, and EC was probably going to be its sole occupant. But then 2 things happened. First, I watched a tiny clip of the behind the scenes of the show. Mate, it's so wholesome. These little kids love EC. It's like their Elmo, man. And then I remembered being little and thinking that those kids were the coolest because they got to hang out with all the puppets, including EC. Secondly, and more importantly, some Americans started talking smack about EC on the internet. Now, I love it when people come here from the US and then share their experience discovering Aussie culture. I love those videos. Don't stop making them. But if there's one thing that makes me instantly patriotic about any part of Australian pop culture, it's an American talking smack about our stuff and being wrong about it. Specifically in this case, I saw a couple of low effort videos from different like horror, spooky content creators, and they were virtually all the same thing. So they must have ripped each other off. This faceless doll terrorized an entire generation of Australians for years. And the most terrifying part of all, its name, EC. Literally, that's word for word what they said. What is so terrifying about the letters EC? Mate, first of all, don't talk about it like you were there. You don't know what it was like. Now, to be fair, Aussies do like to poke fun at EC and its lack of a face, in the same way that we like to make fun of most things. But I think it's mostly because this was a beloved character by a lot of kids. And as adults, we're just realising it's a little bit weird that our beloved children's character has no face and was found in the garbage. And while yes, there were of course some kids that weren't fans of EC, the same way there are some kids that don't like Big Bird, the show was successful. It had school curriculum based on it, merchandise, there were kids that had these actual backpacks, along with books, cassette tapes, the whole shebang. So suddenly imbued with all sorts of defensiveness for EC and the gang, I felt a bit hypocritical, and I decided there was only one thing to do: confront my fears, face to, so friends, I would like you to give a warm welcome to EC. Perfectly normal adult purchase that I made, it's fine. When I found out that they made an EC doll in 1992, I hit up eBay and I found this guy. Mate, these are actually so expensive. I got a good deal because this one's got like dodgy thumbs, but if you've got one in decent nick, that is a couple of hundo on eBay. I'm not even joking. So moving forward, I'll be confronting my very rational fear of faceless dolls and also reinstating my no going on eBay after midnight rule. EC is obviously a 10. But like also a 10 in friendship. The same people that made EC and Liftoff also made another show called Round the Twist, which is the most iconic, beloved, and unhinged kids show in all of Aussie history. It almost never aired in Australia. It actually aired in the UK first. There was like a whole bunch of things they ran into. People tried to censor it. I recently started a deep dive series looking into the story behind that show, and it's pretty wild. Part 1 is already up. Part 2 is coming super soon. It was a bit delayed because we had a cyclone and then a wedding. Not my wedding. Also not my cyclone. My point is there shouldn't be such large gaps between content moving forward. Let me know what puppets I missed. I'm sure there's lots. I haven't done the ferals yet. That's one. Also, if you're not from Australia, let me know what weird puppets you have, okay? I want to discover all the weird puppets. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. Give us a thumbs up, because Easy can't.